What is up, everybody? This is the Wellness Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett, and this is episode 71. Today's guest is Clarissa Gannon. She founded Vegan Fit for Life in 2014 and has over a decade of coaching experience in the fitness industry. She's a mom of four and an NPC figure competitor. So, obviously, many of you know I'm not vegan. I have my own views of veganism. However, one of the benefits of having a podcast and one of the things that I think that is important for everyone is to have conversations with people who are different from yourselves, have different views of your own view of nutrition or other areas in life, and have experience outside of your area and challenge your beliefs. So I learned quite a bit with this podcast myself. I think it'll be helpful for you, especially if you tend to be more plant-based or you want to include more veggies into your diet, which many of you need to do, myself included sometimes. So she gives great tips for that. So even if you're not vegan, definitely give this episode a listen, as she is awesome. Also, NPC figure competitor, she can get really, really lean using a vegan diet. If you don't know what the NPC is, which I'm not surprised if you don't know what that is, because that's not usually the target of my audience, but I competed in the NPC back in, I guess this was 2013, 2014. It is the organization before you get your pro card and go to the IFBB, which is like the big bodybuilding competitions like the Olympia and some of the other ones. So you go to the NPC, that's where you try to make it to the big times. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with Clarissa. What's up, Clarissa?
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Of course. I'm excited to have you on. You're our first vegan guest on the show. So as I reached out to you after when you signed up to be a guest, I was like, okay, just to know, like, I'm huge into hunting, and part of our audience also is, but we do have a lot of plant-based eaters, and I'm not an expert in plant-based eating. So I always love having people who are, because we do have some people in our community. But with that being said, I don't want to spill all the beans for the audience. So can you give like the audience a little bit of a background on you and how you became a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like a twisty, turvy story, but I always try really hard to condense it so we don't spend a whole hour talking about where I came from. But like growing up, I wasn't into fitness or nutrition or anything. When I hit my teens, I developed anorexia. Coming out of that, I knew that nutrition was like the key to maintaining like any kind of physique that I wanted to maintain, as far as, and also for being healthy. Like our family was very big into holistic remedies. And so I think that played a part in where I am today with everything. Fast forward, had a couple, well, like 4 kids. So it's definitely never really worked out. We didn't do athletics. I wanted the kids to participate in those things because I felt it was important and I felt it was something I missed out on. But as a mom, I didn't really exercise. I would do some body weight exercises from time to time, but I walked a lot and really focused on the nutrition part. And for me, as you know, coming out of that place of being anorexic, the nutrition was really, really important. And as I started to learn more about that, and you know what true daily requirements are, not the USDA food pyramid. I really started paying attention to the things that I was putting in my body in relationship to how I felt. So that's how the animal products started getting removed from my diet.
Okay.
So fast forward a few more years, the kids are a little bigger. I found the gym. I was in a really bad position in my marriage. I was in an abusive relationship for myself and the kids. And I was like, I've got to get us out of that. I've got to get us in a better place. And so I applied for a federal law enforcement job. And to do that, I had to be a bigger, stronger person than I was. I found the gym and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing place. I feel amazing. I finally feel somewhat confident in myself. And so I pursued, getting stronger and started understanding that protein was actually a little more important than I thought that it was. And so I was able to, get us out of that situation and get us into somewhere else. And as I just increased my confidence and started seeing positive change in my body, I was like, I have to share this with other women because they have to know what this feeling is. And that is how I became a coach. So long story, super short. Do you have questions on any of that? Any places we wanted to go?
I mean, there's a bunch of different routes we could go there.
Okay.
Where let's first stick with like the nutrition aspect of things because
Sure.
I'm sure that's what most of the audience is curious about first. So, you started removing the animal products out of your
Mhm.
diet and you started to feel better. How
Very
did you
nice.
come upon like going? Because usually it's a process of like
Mhm.
first you're like plant-based or slash vegetarian, however you want to define that,
Right.
and then it's like, nope, I'm making that full leap into being vegan. So, what was that process like for you?
Yeah, that was actually a really long process. Um, because, before hitting the gym, finding the gym, I was vegetarian. And even, I was vegetarian throughout pregnancies and the kids were fine, like didn't have any problems being anemic or any of that. But as I found the gym and the gym community was like, you have to have protein, you have to have protein. And um, being vegetarian in the time that I grew up, we had tempeh and we had tofu and that almond cheese, and that's like really about it. So I didn't feel that there was enough options to support what was needed for protein. So I went back to eating like chicken breast and tuna and all of that and egg white. And my digestive problems all came back. So
Hmm.
after a period of feeling horrible, I eliminated the meat again. And everybody was like, you can't do that. You're going to lose all your muscle. And I was like, just watch me. I'll be fine. And so I did. And I started feeling better. Like I used to get so bloated that it was horrible. Um, and just like other GI problems too, like nausea. And I just always felt like I could, like the meat was honestly sitting in my system for a
Hmm.
while. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the feeling of heaviness. So took that out, felt great for a while, and then I started having the problems again. So I was like, what else can I get rid of? So I eliminated all the egg white because I've never been a fan of eggs. Honestly, the egg yolk really grosses me out like so bad and always has. But I used egg white a lot being vegetarian. I was like, well, heck, I can have a cup of that and it's 20 grams of protein. So super easy. But the problems were coming back. So I ditched the egg white and then I felt fine. Then my husband watched, there's a documentary called What the Health.
Mm-hmm.
And he was struggling with some GI issues and just like a lot of inflammation. So he was like, okay, well, after I watched that movie, I think that I want to try eating vegan. And I was like, oh, great, this is fantastic. So I ditched the dairy. We started eating vegan. He lost about 20 pounds. He felt way better. And then he was like, I want to go back. And I said, no, I'm not cooking that way. And so that was the process of becoming fully, eliminating
Okay.
all the
I find this is the very individual aspects of nutrition where like, so I can't do too many veggies or I get GI issues. Whereas you had meat and you get GI issues. So it's the very individualized experiences of, even though we're all humans, nutrition sometimes like what worked for you won't work for me. And I've had some genetic testing where like I absolutely love egg yolks. Well, I did some genetic testing. I need like double the choline of the average person, which is a great source in egg yolks. So
Mhm.
like I crave that versus you're like, ooh. So I bet if we
Yeah,
tested you, you're like, your gene is fine. And you're like, no,
right.
I get all that from my diet. I don't need these things. So it's always interesting to hear like how people get into the different areas, like how I have become like more like this. Like I like these foods. Oh,
Mhm.
my body actually likes that. And you're like, I feel like garbage when I eat meat.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. And that's
It
why
is.
I'm like, I love having all of these different backgrounds on my podcast and talking to people.
Right.
So now comes the next question. So regardless, I'm not a carnivore approach. So everybody should be eating fruits and veggies and things. Being vegan, that's pretty much all you eat. So how do you make them taste good? Because that's going to be the next question I get from half my audience. How do you make the veggies taste good? And then how do you get your kids to eat them?
Right. Um, being a competitive bodybuilder, I really don't care what my food tastes like. I know that I have to eat what I have to eat. So that one's hard. It's always hard for me. And even in coaching people, my view on that can cause like a bit of a roadblock
Mhm.
sometimes for people. So have to think outside the box a lot. My kids, they've when they were small, I always had them eat what we eat. And I've always maintained that we need to have a protein, a carbohydrate, and a vegetable at every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, fruit at breakfast. But so they're used to eating vegetables, whereas some kids aren't because they didn't have that kind of a background. But yeah, they get tired of things. So we rotate through some different options of preparing vegetables. I like to keep things simple because when you have a business and you have kids and you're constantly studying, there's not a lot of time. But we do like basic steaming. I have a steam oven. I love it. That's how I do all my personal meal prep. It's, you chop your things up, you put them in the oven, 30 minutes later, it's done. Um, so that's easy. I like to bake a lot of the vegetables. That gives them a little bit of a different texture, right? And then when you're baking them, you can spray them lightly with the spray oil
Mhm.
and then season them, and they still remain very healthy that way. Another way that my kids like the vegetables a lot, and I mean I do too, if I'm perfectly honest, is if we saute things. So
Yep.
adding olive oil or avocado oil, and then whatever seasonings, and just cooking them that way.
Okay. Awesome. So I basically the same
Yeah.
boat as you. That grilling them is also something we do
Hmm.
a lot. But yeah, baking. Used to love that with Brussels sprouts, like throw it in
Oh
the
yeah.
oven, get them roasted, delicious until like it does not agree with me anymore. That is very
Oh
sad.
no.
I get
Oh
major
no.
bloating from, oh, so good though. So I'll go out someplace and I will order them. Like, I'm going to regret this. But yeah, that is one of those where not by choice, I don't eat anymore because I absolutely love them, but my body says otherwise. But
Yeah.
yeah. So what kind of like seasonings do you recommend for someone to use?
Um, I use a lot of the pink salt, the black salt. If you haven't ever tried black salt, you really should because it's absolutely amazing. It's more flavorful
Okay.
than regular salt. So I like that. I use garlic a lot, even though it sometimes can disagree with people because it's awfully tasty.
It is
Um,
delicious.
yeah, and that I actually use a lot of basil. It goes good on
Mm,
a lot of vegetables. It's super, super good on zucchini. And then balsamic vinegars. Those are so good on the broccoli, the mushrooms, the Brussels sprouts. Some of the white ones are really good on carrots too.
hmm. Yeah. We have probably 20 different flavors of balsamic
It's
vinegars, and my daughter loves it. And if
Mhm.
she's not eating anything, we just like drizzle a little bit of that and she will eat whatever it is,
Yeah.
whether it's like for us, it might be like some meat or it might be the veggie. Like she started eating salad greens and she's 21 months. She started eating salad greens because she liked the balsamic. So she just like sucked the balsamic off, but then she started eating them. So it's like it's kind of weird. I'm like, my kid eats salad. I'm like, I
Yeah,
hated
that is
salad
cool.
like growing up, but it's because she likes the balsamic so much. And I don't think a lot of people think of that when it comes to flavoring. Like we have all these different vinegars and
Yeah.
it makes a big difference. Like we have ones like blueberry one for summer and spring, and then you can get like more fallish winter ones. Same method of prepping your food, just like different flavors.
Yes. Yeah, no, I love the balsamic vinegar. We have two actually local stores that, they have like you walk in and it's just vats of olive oil and vinegar that are all different flavors and it's so amazing. My son will go in with me, my youngest one, and he'll just drink the vinegar out of the little
Mm-hmm.
tasting cups. I'm like, oh my God.
Some of them are good that way. We get one. So my parents live up in Maine. I'm in
Okay.
Pennsylvania, but there's a place up there, and that's where we get most of it from. So like our yearly trip up there, we stock up.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, some of them are like, if you just try it, you're like, okay, I'll be good with something, but by itself. But other ones I've had, I'm like, I would just drink like a shot glass of this. This is
Yeah,
delicious.
no, he totally does. It's crazy.
Um, okay, so that's how you flavor it. Now, what about the protein? So I know when I do work with someone who, for whatever reason, that maybe they don't like meat as much, maybe they're going the same direction as you, where they are going to start transitioning to more plant based. I usually set a slightly lower protein goal of like zero point 0.8 pounds per uh, gram, the zero point 0.8 grams per pound of their goal weight. But what are your tips for getting enough protein in being vegan or plant based?
Right. Yeah, so you're spot on with what you're calculating for plant-based needs. So zero point 0.8 per pound is good, but also you can look at it as if you're dividing percentages. So we
Mm-hmm.
always work, in 25% fat as like the low end. You can also work in 25% protein for the low end, and then that leaves you 50 gram or 50% of carbs, which is fantastic for a plant-based diet. So that's a ratio we usually use with clients, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on their goals. Protein sources, there's tons of them. Like I mentioned when I started this whole journey, we had tempeh, we had tofu, and we had really gross almond cheese. And that's all we had. But there's so many varieties of plant-based protein powders now. We actually carry our own. It's pea protein. I use it. My husband uses it. It's pretty good. It comes in chocolate, which I really love the chocolate protein powders because chocolate contains like usually 8 grams of iron, which is
Mm-hmm.
half of what you need for the whole day. So if people are complaining that they're becoming anemic on a vegan diet, well, freaking use a chocolate protein powder, get some more greens in, and have vitamin C, and you're good to go. But so we use the chocolate protein powder, and then there's still lots of tofu, but there's also some other varieties of tofu now. Like there's one made of pumpkin seed that is so good. It's a little higher in fat than regular tofu, but it tastes absolutely amazing. There is a tofu made out of the fava beans.
Hmm.
They're like a broad bean in the lima bean family. That one's very good. And that one actually has no carbs and no fat. So it's really good for the people that
Oh,
are on carb.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how they remove the carbohydrates from a lima bean or a fava bean, but that's what the label says. And we've messaged the company and they're like, the nutrition's correct. So,
Is
so
it
there
high
you
in
go.
fiber or is it like literally just protein?
Yeah, I think there's a couple grams of fiber, so not a whole lot.
Interesting.
It is. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then for people that are just new to transitioning, and my husband too, because he is a or was a meat eater, is there's so many mock meats now. I mean, there's
Mhm.
all the Beyond products, there's the Impossible. Gardein has some really good products. Uh, Gosh, I don't even know. There's so many now. It's like there's a new one almost every time I go to the store. There's one that was amazing. I just found it at Sprouts recently. It's called Meaty, and they have steaks, which is really cool because now if the guys are grilling, I can have a steak and
Mhm.
participating in the dinner. But those are made out of mushroom protein, and they're pretty good.
Hmm. I have not heard that. I've heard of people kind of doing things with mushroom to kind of mimic
Mhm.
steak because it does have like a very similar texture, but I have not heard that company. So that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. No.
Um, what's your stance on nutritional yeast? Because that's something I use with a lot of plant-based
Yeah.
eaters, or at least recommend. Is that something you include with your vegan plans? Because I'm actually not sure where that lands on things.
Yeah, so the nutritional yeast is more, I mean, there is some protein in it, sure, but it's more a really good source of B12, which is found, in animal products. So B12, though, is very poorly absorbed by the body. So, yes, there are vegans that eat tons of it. I'm not one of those people. So, I do use a nutritional yeast, but I also still supplement with a B12.
Okay. So the B12 in there isn't absorbed super well. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just like it because I like the flavor.
Yes, I
So
know.
to the audience listening, if you've never used it, it's like a cheesy, I describe it almost like a nacho cheese flavor.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
so it's cheesy, you can throw in veggies, but without the calories of cheese.
right. Yeah, totally. Fat free.
Fat free, tiny bit of protein, but
Yeah.
loaded with a bunch of B vitamins. So I use it with eggs almost every morning with my daughter, and we'll throw that on veggies and different things to give it that little bit of cheesy flavor. So definitely, and my mom uses it, so she is more plant-based. And she'll make like a cashew cheese to make like a dip. She'll throw that in there to make like a cheesy dip um with like veggies or chips or something.
Yeah. No, it's a good source of the B12 and it's a super nice for flavoring. I actually put that on vegetables sometimes and my kids love it on popcorn.
Oh, I forgot to say that. Yes, it is good on popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Do you use so going back to protein because I got sidetracked there. Do you use a lot of beans and stuff just like as is with clients? Or is it kind of like your choice? What's your feelings on using some of that stuff?
Yeah, so I love beans. That is me personally. Our clients we have such an individualized approach to clients. Like when someone comes in, we run a full lab panel and we do a gut map as well. So the gut map is going to come back and tell us, what's going on in the gut, but it's also going to list out foods that they need to include or avoid for, 1 to 3 months, depending on the condition of their gut. So, based on that, and then also based on where their metabolism is, because if they're negatively adapted metabolism wise, then we're starting out with a smaller amount of calories. And if
Mhm.
that's the case, it's going to be really hard to get their protein from the whole foods like beans and grains and vegetables. So we're going to be adding in other things per gut map of what they can have as far as protein goes. But
Okay.
our goal is to eventually get everyone, up high enough with their metabolic capacity to be able to get most of their protein from whole food sources.
Okay. So I know I've seen some vegan bodybuilders out there, and you look at their diet and it's like it's mostly protein powders. Like
Mhm.
I understand like it's great, but there's also a lot of people that I work with where they're trying to like limit like
Yes.
any processed food at all. And it has its place. I personally have a protein powder and I like it. I've used plant-based protein powders when my gut health's kind of like garbage and the dairy stuff isn't agreeing with me. Um, but sometimes it's like that's just like okay, easy protein source. We rely on that. So I was wondering, but I like that approach. So like as you kind of reverse diet and heal their metabolism, then it's easier to fit those foods in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Gosh, we've got a girl right now who's in prep and she's at like 3,600 calories. And so like everything is completely plant-based. There is no processed anything. And it's just amazing to see that.
That's awesome. Um, and then a lot of people will try out the like chickpea pastas and stuff like that. What's the feeling on that? Because I personally don't have any issue unless someone decides I'm going to get all my protein from this, and I've gone from eating zero beans to
Oh
all
gosh,
the beans.
that's such a good point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I do love some of the protein pasta. Um, Some of it is very grainy. So like passing the texture off here in the house with my husband and the boys is kind of hard, but there are some where the texture is a little bit better.
Okay.
So those can definitely be good. I mean, they're pretty simple ingredients, so you're not looking at a lot of processing. But like you mentioned, and I see this all the time too, is like people go, like you said, from eating no fiber to going plant-based, and suddenly, I mean, a typical diet, as far as eating whole food plant-based, you're looking at anywhere from 40 to 70 grams of fiber per day. If your gut's not used to that, you're going to be bloated, you're going to have gas, you're going to like think that everything is going wrong. And it's just because your body isn't used to that amount of fiber. It's not that there's anything wrong with that amount of fiber, it's just way too much for your body to handle all at once.
How do you work people in like incrementally up with their fiber intake? Because that's going to just increase being plant based.
Oh yeah, yeah. So since the majority of the women that come in are negatively, metabolically adapted, it's easier because we're
Okay.
working, generally from like 12 to 1400 calories up to wherever they're supposed to be. So it's easy to gradually increase fiber that way. As you know, I don't know that I've ever had somebody come in and be eating 2000 calories and having a problem with that.
Okay. Um, is do you like obviously I know it is like a weekly adjustment and everything's personalized, but it do you like try to work in like we're going to increase fiber like 5 grams a week or maybe it's a month depending on that person?
Yeah. Yeah, it depends on the person. So it's always, going back to the biofeedback of like how's digestion, how's elimination, what's going on with those. And then like you said, we do adjust sometimes weekly, but honestly, with most of the women, it's like every 2 weeks that we adjust because just that they've been dieting for so long, they're that negatively adapted. So it takes a long time to get them stable. But 5 grams. Generally, what we do is we increase calories by 50 to 100, depending on where
Hmm.
that person is. So that's not leave. I mean, sometimes fiber is only increasing a couple grams each time,
Okay.
based on where that person is.
Okay. I was just curious. I try to get people to like 20 grams of fiber as fast as possible because it's sometimes you get a client and you're like, you are eating 5 grams of fiber per day.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna try to get you to 20 quick. And then it's like, let's slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
But obviously very individualized because if they're getting bloating at 15 grams, so we're gonna back it off some.
Mhm.
Um, okay, interesting. Now gonna shift gears here a little bit. Your mom, you run a business, you compete in bodybuilding. There's a lot of things pulling for time and attention. So how do you kind of balance spending time with family, which is where like most 80% of my clients are moms?
Mhm.
How do you balance all the things of work life, your personal life, and making sure that you are giving the most amount of like time and love to your kids and family?
Right. No, that has been a process because admittedly, I did not do well at that for a long time. And in fact, when I was, alone with the kids, I did horrible at it. I had to work 2 jobs to keep the house and keep the kids with food and everything that we needed. But over the last few years, I've been able to refine things. So what I find works really well for me now is to number one, live by the schedule in my phone. That is, I cannot, I have to put everything in my phone and then I just have to do what it says to do. So that helps tremendously. But like my workouts in there, if I'm doing meal prep, that goes in there. All of my meetings, of course, go in there. And then I keep, as far as the business goes, I keep a list next to my desk of tasks that I need to accomplish each week. And that keeps me on top of what I need to do. Um, but as far as family time goes, is I have to, I don't have to, but I do get up early. I'm usually awake by 5 o'clock. I start work at 5 o'clock and then I will take a break and take the kid where he needs to go and go to the gym. And then I work the rest of the day and I try very, very hard to be done with my work by 2, 3 o'clock at the latest. That way I'm not working when my kid is home from school. That way we can have dinner. Maybe I can vacuum the house, those kinds of things. And then in the evening after dinner, when my husband's home, we can have our time together and I'm not working.
Okay, so you just shift all of your things earlier in the day, so then in the evening you would have more time. Gotcha. I like
Yeah.
that.
And then on Sunday, I don't look at my phone. Like I can't.
Sunday, yeah, I kind of do this. Sunday is a break day. Like no social,
Yes.
limited social media. I can't say no. I'm still terrible at that, but not posting and doing work on social media, and then just like that is family time day. Okay, so you kind of end 2 or 3, then you spend time with your kiddo, dinner, time with your husband afterwards. When you work with clients who they're probably struggling with this similar situation, how do you kind of like walk them through figuring out their best schedule that would
Right.
work with what's going on in their lives?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of lists, and then I know lists aren't always like in the optimal place. So like using sticky notes to set a reminder, where you're going to see it of, hey, I need to take, 10 minutes and do my breath work, or hey, I need to go to the gym, or prep your things the night before so that when you get up and do whatever you need to do with the kids, then you can go to the gym. I don't ever ask clients to cut into their sleep time. I mean, that's one of the things that we really strive to work on and improve is sleeping. So I'm never going to ask you to get up at 4 and go to the gym. That's stupid. Um, but figuring out a time where you feel that it's realistic for you to be able to commit to going to do your exercise at that time each day or 3 times a week or whatever it is you feel that compliance is going to be good on. So even helping them figure out a routine is really ultimately up to the client and where they feel their level of compliance is going to be. Because I can have the best plan in my mind for you, but if you can't follow it, it's no good. So we do use a lot of lists and the sticky note reminders. Sometimes that's hard for people. So I'm also a fan of like doing the voice reminders in your phone. That can be
Mm,
helpful as well.
that's a good one. I hate voice reminders, so I always forget about that one. Uh,
Yeah, no, some people are like, I don't ever write anything down. I'm like, well, then talk to your phone. I mean, we spend, $1,000 on a phone. We should be able to have it do something for us.
yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Huge list person. Here's my sticky notes.
Yep.
My list is here for the daily task, and then everything that um syncs to the phone. So it's like, what's going on? Like my wife before this call is like, what's going on? What are you doing today with work? And like just pull up my Google Calendar, boom, boom, boom. Here's all my meetings. Here's what has to get done. And then she knows. Which actually is very helpful with your spouse because so right now, like we have to take the dog to the vet. So it's like, is today or tomorrow going to be better? And right now we're recording on Thursday. I'm like, okay, today, Thursday, I have all this stuff going on. Tomorrow, I have two calls. I like one's my assistant coach, which I could just move if needed in the morning, and the other one's in the end of the day. She's like, so tomorrow, yes,
Yeah. No, I agree that it is super helpful for my husband because he's like, what are you doing? I don't know. Let me look at my phone because I really don't know.
yes. Well, I tell people, because this is one of the things like I like for stress management. It's like the first thing I try to do with clients is like, we're just going to start with like making a schedule and power listing and getting your tasks down and getting them out of your head because a lot of people will like ruminate and think like sleep quality also huge that we work on first thing. So what's the worst thing? You don't have a list, so you're trying to like remember all the things and getting anxiety trying to fall asleep. You're just like sitting there tossing and turning. So I say it's like kind of like if you've seen Harry Potter, the scene where like Dumbledore like takes the memory out of his head. I'm like, that's kind of like
Oh, yeah.
making the list. Like
Right.
you don't even remember. Like I don't know what's going on today. My wife's like, what do you mean that you don't know? I'm like, I wrote it down so I don't have to remember. I just know I have to look at my list by X time to make sure I don't miss anything.
Right.
But yeah, I go to bed. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow other than the basics. And then I look at the
Right.
list in the morning, like, oh, that's what I'm doing today. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Another thing we do for our clients is inside our coaching platform, we have the ability to set reminders for them.
Mhm.
And that's helpful, but they're only going to see that if they look, at the
Yes.
coaching. So that's why external reminders are a huge help.
Yeah. Um, I try to get things on because I get distracted by my phone way too easily.
Okay.
So I try to get as much on paper as possible. But my office is in the basement. So like weekends, the last thing I want to be is in my office. So I try to, that's where the phone does come in handy. So there's a little bit of syncing between the two. But as much as I can, I try to write things down because I'm also more visual. I think it's easier for me personally to visualize it on paper of like what the day is going to look like rather than like the app. That's me personally, but I also find the same thing with some of my clients. Like some people are very visual, like let's map this out, draw it out, and other people are like, nope, I'm fine with a phone and I get a notification like in an hour of a task coming up. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's totally individual.
Um, so the other thing you said, I think is always an interesting topic, and people just love learning about it. Um, being your metabolism being negatively adapted, which is something you and I see all the time. When someone comes to you, what is the process of fixing their metabolism? Because more often than not, we're getting clients where it's like your metabolism is fucked.
Right.
Not like, okay, great, we can go right into a fat loss phase.
Um, so we generally will run through a reverse dieting phase for most of our women. That's been an extremely long process, like 6 months at least. Um, so when a client comes in, do we have a form that they can fill out, and that
Okay.
kind of lets us know, based on the grading of that form, where their metabolism is sitting. Like, if they come in and it's a reverse form. So if you score, anything over 40, we're looking at metabolic adaptation in the negative. But if they come in and they're scoring like 70, 80, over 100, we're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a long process. So we go ahead and do that first, and then we can kind of set, what calories should look like. But sometimes it depends on the client, because sometimes they come in and they're not going to track. So they don't want to do anything. So then it's like, going back to food pictures, or can you write things down? And, trying to just get an understanding of how much they're actually currently getting in. And then we
Hmm.
can start making small adjustments going upwards. Um, we've started recently a new process for our clients, just because we're diving so much more into the health aspect, in addition to helping you lose weight. Because what we find with working in the age group that we work in is, if we have things going on with our hormones or with our gut, you can be eating 1,200 calories and not seeing any weight loss. And part of that's due to that negative metabolic adaptation, but part of it can be really due to, if you are severely estrogen dominant, if your cortisol is through the roof, if you have zero testosterone, if your gut is not absorbing things. So we look at all of those, and then what we have been doing is we jump right into what we're calling a restorative diet. It's a 2-week, very specific protocol. And what it does is it helps to reset insulin. So insulin starts working
Hmm.
better. If insulin is working better, leptin and ghrelin start working better. And then it's also designed to really calm down inflammation in the gut while we're waiting to get back the results from the lab. So once they're done with this diet, and what's crazy is that the diet in itself is generally around 2,000 calories, but because we are rebalancing those three hormones of insulin, leptin, and ghrelin, and reducing inflammation, the scale usually drops right away for our clients.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's awesome. And then, if based on that, if we're able to jump right into 2,000 calories where they should be, it makes the reverse diet process so much easier.
Well, yeah, if you could start out a diet
Yeah.
2000, like awesome. Because
Yeah.
most of the time they're coming in and it's like, okay, we can start your reverse diet like 1600. And then, like you said earlier, it's like 50 to 100 calories per week. You could just do the math. If you're supposed to get to 2,600 calories, how many weeks is that going to be? It's going to be a
Yeah.
while if you can make that adjustment weekly. And some people can't. Some people,
Right.
it's biofeedback saying we're going to sit here for a little while.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's not just the whole process of getting to that end calorie range. Is then you have to stay there for a while, because you have to be at maintenance and let the body reacclimate and heal all those pathways that have been, well, they're not damaged, but they're downgraded.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people hear like broken metabolisms or my hormones are broken. And it's like, no, you're just not eating enough to support it, but your body's also not a light switch. Like it's not like your maintenance is 2,600. We're going to hit that 2,600 mark and your body goes, oh, we can fix everything today. No,
Right. Yeah.
it's a process. Just like it took you 10 years to get where you are stuck, it's not going to take 10 years to get back, but it's going to take months, if not, better part of a year. My friend, she worked with a coach before she became a coach, and
Mhm.
she did a reverse diet for 8 months, I believe. I think it was 8 months. But then it was like her diet on the back end was 3 months. Like it was 8 months of reverse dieting, and she could have like tried to like struggle and do everything for the 8 months, and then have like another 8 month reverse diet on the back end, or 8 months reverse diet, 3 month diet, then just reverse really quick, like month and a half, and then now she's coasting.
Right. Yes. Yeah. No, it's a beautiful process.
When you can map it out for people, and people are like, okay, now I understand the plan. It is amazing how well it works. But if
Mm.
people can't visualize it can be rough. I'm sure you see this. The people who are like a month in, 2 months in, and they're like, it's not working.
Oh, yeah.
How do you like walk them through? Because it is frustrating. Like I understand where they're coming from. Like you want this transformation yesterday. It's like,
Mm.
we can't even start for 6 months. How do you walk them through like, hey, like remember this is the process?
Yes. No, that's exactly what we do. To help that process and help prevent that a little bit, it doesn't always work 100%. Is when clients come in, we have like a 4-part video series that they watch, and that walks them through the different phases of the program. So letting them know like right up front that we're probably not entering fat loss until month 6 has really helped a lot. But there are still questions and there are still doubts, and it goes back. They're doing something they've never done before, so it's hard. And they can have trust in the process, I feel, and still doubt it just because it is so opposite of what they've done all of their lives. Other clients come in and I love it when this happens. You increase their calories and the scale goes down, and they're like, but that doesn't happen all the time, and you never know who that's going to happen to.
Yeah, that's I have a client right now and that's happening. It's like one out of my many clients. It's like it's cool to see, but you can't I don't really advertise that much because it's one of those things like in the client wins like oh I can't tell someone else who comes in if that will be them either. Like it's
Right.
one out of
Right.
very many.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we do is generally through the process of reverse dieting, we're also working on building muscle. So as you're building muscle and your body is actually able to build it because you're giving your body sufficient intake now to build, what we do see is drastic improvements in body composition. And so like if your clothes are fitting better and you physically look better, you look more fit, who cares what the scale says? Like, I don't understand still why we must attach our value to some arbitrary number on the scale.
A lot of people are stuck with I
Oh
weighed
my,
this in high school, so I want to get back to that.
high school, yeah.
It's like, well, were you actually happy with the way you looked in high school? Or is that just this magical image you have in your head? And at the same time, like if we build muscle, you'll never get back to that weight.
Right.
You'd have, I mean, you maybe they would get back to that weight working with you. I don't work with bodybuilders and competitors, but uh, that would be the only time they might get close to that weight is right before stage prep after you flush out the water and everything. Like that's un-
Right.
that's sustainable for about like maybe 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah. And even with the competitors, we don't want a low number on the scale. I could give a crap what the
Right.
number is. And that they always ask, what should I weigh on stage? I'm like, the judges are not going to weigh you. You're not in the bodybuilding category. So you're not getting weighed. What the judges care about is how much fat you have. It's not a bodybuilding competition is a bodybuilding competition. So we're constantly striving to make our body bigger. It's not a dieting competition. Yeah, so the number even for competing on the stage really really doesn't matter. They weigh, like I said, the bodybuilding categories, and they weigh physique, and that is so that they put you in the proper category to be with people that are the same size as you. That way, you're not weighing 110 pounds and you're on stage with somebody that's 210. Like that
Right.
wouldn't be fair.
They do wait for women's physique.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did
I do.
not know that. I knew it was height for like bikini and figure. I didn't know that. Is wellness height? Because that's the new one.
As far as I know, wellness is height.
Okay. I've been out of the bodybuilding world for 10 years. So I'm like, I'm like from the outside looking in, I'm like, I kind of remember some of this stuff, but it's been literally 10 years. So I don't
Yeah,
know everything.
yeah,
Okay.
and I didn't compete last year, so I'm kind of out of the loop of that. Hopefully next winter,
It
because
it's amazing. Like 1 year changes so much in the bodybuilding world. You're like, that's why I don't work with any competitors because I'm so far out that I just like I will move them to another like someone like you. I will move them to work with someone like you where hey, this person knows what the judges are looking for and they're the most up to date with the process. I can get you lean, I can build your muscle, but the like last couple of weeks of stage prep or getting your physique to look a certain way, like I I'm out.
right, yeah,
Um so we you work with you obviously fix their metabolism and then you go into a fat loss phase And then what's that process look like, where everyone wants to get to after the diet's done? Either they've hit their goal or they need a break. What's that process on the back end there?
After the fat loss phase?
Mhm.
Yeah. So after fat loss, obviously we don't want to leave our clients dieting. Like that is the worst place to leave diets. You will regain the weight. And that's one of the things that we're very proud of is that, we don't want our clients to regain the weight. We want them to maintain. So then we do another reverse diet on the back end to get them back up to a healthy range. And then they remain in our community for as long as they want to. So if they find that they're struggling down the road, they can message us and we'll do a macro check for them, or see if they need some additional support in getting more labs done or whatever that may look like for that individual.
Okay, got it. Something you brought up with you do competitions in the winter. I'm like, oh, that I did the same thing. So I actually used to do like early spring.
Okay.
When you're working with clients, do you try to if you have like a ideal situation, this doesn't work for everyone, do you try to map out like a year for someone and like, hey, like during these times of the year we're going to plan for your fat loss phase based on like things going on in your life? Obviously it's very individual, but is that something you do with some of your clients?
Yeah, before we go into fat loss, whether you're competing or not, there's always the questions like, do you have a vacation coming up? Like, are the holidays around the corner? Because that wouldn't be a very good time to enter a deficit in either scenario. So looking at those things, I feel is always important for determining if it's a good time to start a fat loss phase or not.
Awesome. I do the same thing. Wanted to hear your thing because I refuse to diet over the holidays.
Yeah, it can be hard for sure for some people.
Most people. So literally like October 15th, like we do like a message show of our clients, like, okay, we've been talking, we've been hinting at this and talking a little bit, but this is like we need to set a hard plan now of what's your plan for the holidays. Are you dieting or are you taking a break, and we're gonna like build muscle for the next 2 months before entering the next fat loss phase. And you 50% try to diet through, which some are successful, some it's kind of just like maintenance. And then the ones that build muscle are usually very successful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you can totally diet through the holidays if your personality is right for that, and still be able to enjoy them. Something that we do with clients a lot is moving through fat loss phases. We will utilize a refeed if you have a compliant client. If you do
Yes.
not have a compliant client, it's a recipe for disaster. But then if you're utilizing refeeds in a smart manner, you can still use those around the holidays and still enjoy the holidays, but in a more responsible manner.
How do you structure a refeed?
What we do is because protein's always a tad low for our clients, right? We're working with 25%. We will just increase carbs by, what really depends on the client. And their level of leanness, how long they've been dieting, and all of that. So every feed can look like anywhere from between 20 to 150 extra carbs. It just depends on the person.
Okay, nice, awesome. Anything else you wanted to go over today?
I think we talked about a lot of.
I think we hit all the bullet points and then some.
Yeah.
So where can people find you?
On all the social media platforms. So on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, it's under the business name Vegan Fit for Life. YouTube and Twitter are both under my name, Clarissa Gannon. And then we have a website, veganfitforlife.com.
Awesome. So that information will be down in the show notes. And then you're going to be having, so when this episode airs, you're going to be having a challenge coming out, correct?
Yes, we are going to do a 28-day challenge in August.
Awesome. And then that, for someone to sign up for that, will that be on your website, Facebook group, all of the above?
Yes, it will be in the Facebook group, and there will be a link on Instagram and TikTok.
Awesome. Okay. So probably the easiest way, click the link to Instagram and TikTok, and then click the link in the bio, and that's going to be the easiest way to sign up for the challenge.
Be pretty easy, yes.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you for coming on, and definitely check out Clarissa with down the show notes and give her a follow.
Thank you so much, Chris. I've really enjoyed talking with you this morning.
Yeah, no problem. Hey guys, thanks for tuning to today's episode. Make sure you check out the show notes and give Clarissa a follow and check out all of the stuff she has to offer. With that being said, as always, please give the show a 5-star review and actually leave a written review, as that helps the show get seen by more people and get the show out there. Also, I do read the reviews. This is something I do track all the metrics for the podcast weekly. So if you write a review, I will see it next week and I will use that information and either reply back to you if it's not anonymous or use that to better create content for you. Because ultimately, while yes, sometimes I do ask a few selfish questions for myself with the guest, this is about creating a podcast with no BS information to get amazing information out into the world for you, the listener, to get, that is not coded in the bullshit marketing of most of the fitness industry of supplements and other stuff, that just trying to make money off of your insecurities. Which, they made a lot of money off of my insecurities a long time ago. With that being said, one last thing, we are looking for 5 individuals for the PWC transformation program. We also have 3 spots available for our Pinnacle program. So the Pinnacle program is going to be our highest level program, highest level of accountability involved in it. The investment is higher than the transformation program. However, if you are looking for a program that in the next year is going to totally transform your life, that is the program for you. If you're looking for something that you really need day to day to support, that's the program for you. Both programs get amazing results. It's just the level of accountability and the level of access to myself that you want. Regardless, we're looking for 5 people with the transformation program, and then 3 slots have opened up for the Pinnacle program. So let me know by clicking down the show notes. The application is down there. Let me know if you are interested by filling that out, and then I will personally reach out to you and we will have a conversation to see if you are a good fit for the program and which program is the best fit for you. And from there, we will get things scheduled and get you on your way to achieving the health, body, and weight loss results you dream of. With that being said, that's it today, guys. Thanks for tuning in.